No matter what language you're learning, you're always going to find words in that language that aren't in your native language. And those words are going to be very frustrating because no matter what you do, you just can't fully understand them. You can look up direct translations, you can hear them over and over in the comprehensible input content you're watching. You can stay up every single night ruminating about what these words could possibly mean, and somehow the concept still just feels a bit unclear. But now that I'm 1,000 hours in, now that all those problematic words I used to struggle with so much as a beginner are perfectly comprehensible to me, I can tell you the most important thing that you need to know to stop struggling with these quote-unquote untranslatable words. What's going on, guys? My name's Nick. I'm the creator of Lengualytics and a fluent speaker of the Spanish language, and today the word I want to use as an example in Spanish is the word xa. And yes, I say that word with an Argentinian dialect thing. If you're wondering why, you can watch my other videos. If you type xa into Google Translate or ChatGPT, you'll probably get the direct translation already. But that doesn't really work when we consider sentences like xa me voy or xa te llamo. Both of those sentences, they don't really translate well if you translate xa to already. You'd get already I'm leaving and already I'm calling you. And that doesn't really make sense in English. Sometimes people or translators will say, well, it also means now. But now doesn't make sense when we consider the sentence xa lo hice. Because if you did the direct translation of that, you would get, I did it now. But really, you're trying to say, I already did it. So the reality is the word just doesn't have a good one-to-one translation in English. And I remember thinking about this word for a ridiculous amount of time because it's such a common word. My girlfriend would always use this word. But no matter how many times she used it, it would always just confuse me. I always just felt like I didn't have a good rational grip on what the word was actually trying to communicate. And very quickly you're gonna run into this issue no matter what language you're learning. If you're learning Spanish, Russian, Mandarin, you're gonna realize quickly that they're not just different flavors of English with new words, new grammar rules, and funny letters. Because when you learn that xa doesn't really map comfortably onto now or already, you're discovering this reality that Spanish simply has a concept that English just doesn't have. It doesn't mean your translation skills are bad. It's just that the idea of the word was never carved out in English to begin with. Each language is like a fresh take on reality. They all see the world in different ways. And this becomes very clear the more time you invest into learning a language. And it becomes probably 10,000 times more clear if you're learning a language that has nothing to do with your native language. English and Spanish have a common ancestor, so they're similar. But if you're learning Mandarin or Japanese, the learners in my comment section will tell you that the direct translations between Japanese and English or Chinese and English are insane. Like, they're talking about reality in substantially different ways. And to understand why words like xa are so hard to explain, we have to step back and look at something deeper, how meaning actually works in languages. Most of us assume that the reason we can understand words in our native language is because we can define those words in simpler terms. All the meaning we have in our language comes from understanding definitions. If I ask you to define a chair, you'd say it's something you sit in. If I ask you to define what happy is, you'd say it's a positive emotion. But those explanations only go so deep. If I keep asking you to define more and more fundamental words, eventually you just run out of definitions. Like, imagine if I asked you to define emotion, and you said, okay, emotion is a feeling. Then I said, define feeling, and you said, well, a feeling is a sensation in your mind. Then I say, well, define sensation. You probably might say, well, it's like a feeling, but then you're just doing circular reasoning. Eventually, you just have to start circling back on yourself because you don't have anything more fundamental than the words you've already used. At a certain point, you reach words that you really just can't define anymore. But if I asked you to define the word sensation without using the word feeling and you couldn't do it, that wouldn't mean you don't know what the word sensation means. It would actually mean you know what the word sensation means too well. Your understanding of sensation is deeper than any definition could give you. A math major would say it's axiomatic. It comes from you experiencing that word hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in context. It doesn't come from some stock definition you store in your head. And that's exactly why understanding untranslatable words and other languages is so difficult. Words like sha really just can't be defined. They simply exist. Spanish speakers know what they mean because they've had thousands of experiences listening to and using that word over time to the point where they've developed a deep intuition for the meaning that's being conveyed by that word. But if you're learning Spanish from English, you simply don't have that intuition yet. No amount of reading about the word, studying the word, or ruminating about the word in your head is gonna make it suddenly click. There is only one way to truly understand words like this. At my level of Spanish, when I hear sha, I don't try to translate it to already or now. When I hear it, I immediately just know what it means. And the way I got to this point was simply by forgetting about it. And I know that's gonna irritate a lot of people because it would have irritated me. Everybody wants a system that's gonna help them figure out what something means right now. We all want things right now. But I'm probably the most obsessive person I know, and I ruminated and read explanations on ChatGPT for so long about this word. I have a vivid memory of me sitting at a stoplight just thinking over this word, for the entire duration of the stoplight. And memories like that get burned into your head, these really deep memories, the way I think about these, you only get them if your mind was really struggling with the problem. It's one of those super vivid memories that's just always right there in my head. So my experience was this: no matter how much mental energy I spent on it, I never felt like I actually got closer to understanding the word any better. But over time, as I heard the word in a massive number of contexts over and over again, until I almost forgot about the word entirely because I just was so used to hearing it, something happened. I basically stopped needing to translate it, and my brain just figured out what it was. No conscious thought, just immediate understanding when someone spoke that sound to me. And the funny thing is, I didn't even realize this happened. I just woke up one morning and realized, oh, I understand sha and I can use it in the sentence. There was no eureka light bulb moment where I was like, oh my God, I finally got it, which is what I think a lot of language learners kind of look for. But the reality is much more mundane and boring. The reality is I heard it so many times that my brain was like, just forget about it. And that's what I did, and that's how I learned it. So now I'm convinced that words like sha aren't learned by intense thinking. They're learned in the same way native speakers learn the word, simply by hearing it over and over again until their mind just was like, yeah, I know what sha means. I don't know how to define it to you. I can't explain it to you, but I know what it means. In the same way, an English speaker probably can't define half the words in the English language, yet we're all fluent. And the most important thing I took away from this is struggle or don't struggle, eventually you're just gonna learn the word. You might look up untranslatable words in the dictionary to try to get a feel for what they mean, but at the end of the day, you will learn it after hundreds of hours of comprehensible input. But if the struggle is optional and eventually you're gonna reach an understanding of the word, then logically there really is no reason to struggle. There really is no reason to try to force your brain to really truly understand something before it's ready. In my opinion, I think that's kind of like fighting against the way your brain naturally learns languages. And if someone told me this advice, even if that someone was, 20 times more fluent than I am now, someone with absolute bilingual Spanish mastery, I still wouldn't care. I wouldn't care at all because I just wanted to know that word. And that obsessiveness is probably worth a lot. So I think if you are obsessing over, words in your target language, that's actually a good sign. That means you love the language and you're really serious about learning it. And again, as long as you just keep taking in input, as long as you keep exposing yourself to the language at a level you understand, you'll make it there. So look up translations, don't look up translations. Think about words, don't think about words. It's all really going to be meaningless when you reach fluency. It's all just gonna be a nice dream in the past. And if you're looking to grow your exposure to your target language at your level, check out my website, Lengualytics, where I host a user-sourced library of comprehensible input content, and I give you a nice interface to help you track your time. If you like this video, I would really appreciate clicking the little thumb button that you see there that represents a like, and thanks for watching.